Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the preview event for Lorwyn Eclipsed, where I get to showcase the new set a few days before release. And today I'm checking out blue-black Faeries as voted on by my supporters on Patreon. And one of the highlights from Lorwyn is a Bitterbloom Bearer double black for a 1/1 Faerie rogue with flash and flying. And similar to Bitterblossom, at the beginning of our upkeep, we lose 1 life and create a 1/1 blue and black Faerie creature token with flying. Of course, being a creature makes it a little easier for the opponent to interact with compared to an enchantment, but being a creature also has a few advantages, as it can also attack and block. We can also get rid of it much more easily if we're about to lose the game to the 1 life loss each turn, and we can also maybe make it uncounterable with a Cavern of Souls on Faerie. And then once we're going wide with a lot of Faerie tokens, the Enduring Curiosity makes for a great top-end threat, as it will let us draw a card whenever we hit the opponent with one of our creatures. And then even if the Curiosity gets removed, it might come back in the form of an enchantment, which will still stick around. And then this also plays very well with a Bitterbloom trick from Foundations, which can make 2 Faerie tokens at instant speed, and also tap down a creature an opponent controls, so it can maybe prevent the opponent from attacking with a creature for a turn, or can also get rid of a blocker, so it's incredibly flexible, and also helps us go wide to set up our Curiosity. Then we've got some other newcomers here with Glenelendra Guardian, a 3-mana 3/4 with flash and flying, enters with a -1/-1 counter, so essentially a 2/3, but we can also pay 1 and a blue to remove a counter from this creature to counter target non-creature spell. Its controller does get to draw a card in return, but still a great tempo play if we can counter some board wipe with this ability. And there's also ways to potentially re-enable the Guardian's ability once we remove the first -1 counter using our new 1-mana removal spell, Requiting Hex, which is not too dissimilar from Fatal Push. Of course, we cannot enable Revolt to take care of 3 or 4 mana creatures, but it also has the upside of maybe Blight 1, giving us 2 additional life. So then we can put a -1/-1 counter on a creature we control, including maybe the Guardian, which can then once again allow us to pay 2 mana and remove the -1 counter to counter a non-creature spell. And then we also have some discard effects here with Ego Drain, requires us to have a Faerie in play, otherwise we have to exile a card from our hand. So it's not a play we often make on turn 1, but later in the game it's still very efficient to have a look at the opponent's hand. Faerie Fencing, another payoff for controlling a Faerie, as we can efficiently take care of an opposing creature. And then we've got some cheaper Faeries as well, with a Sleep Cursed Faerie, great to play early, as it will slowly remove its stun counters, at which point a 3/3 with Flying and Ward 2 is very effective, and we can even keep it on defense by paying 1 and a blue to untap it once again, so it can have pseudo vigilance. And then I'm also trying 2 copies of the new Flitterwing Nuisance, a 1-mana 2/2 flyer, also enters with a -1 counter on it, and can pay 3 mana, remove a counter from this creature, and then when a creature deals damage to the opponent this turn, or a Planeswalker, we get to draw a card. So kind of like an Enduring Curiosity, but limited to 1 card. And then at 2 mana, of course, a blue-black deck is going to want some counter spells, and Spell Stutter scales very well if we're going wide with Faerie tokens, so it can quickly become a hard counter as well. And then Obira, another payoff for going wide with Faerie tokens, as our opponent will now lose 1 life whenever a Faerie enters under our control. Also has Flash, so we can keep it up alongside our other instant speed abilities. So very good with Bitterbloom Bearer and Bitterbloom trick. And then I'm also trying 2 copies of Talion's Messenger. This one is from Eldraine. A 1/3 flyer, says whenever we attack with 1 or more Faeries, draw a card, then discard a card. If we discard it this way, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on target Faerie we control. So it can also boost up some of our creatures. Can also play well with Guardian. Maybe once we remove the -1 counter, we can put a +1 counter on it now, which we can also now remove to once again counter a non-creature spell. And then the one-off Patchwork Banner can pump up our Faeries and tap for a mana of any color, so that can also maybe speed up our clock if we've got a bunch of 1/1s in the air. And then we mentioned our Curve Topper Enduring Curiosity. The mana base has a couple blue-black dual lands with Watery Grave, the blue-black Verge, Restless Reef as an extra creature threat in our mana base, and then just 2 copies of Cavern of Souls to make our Faeries uncounterable, because we do still need a lot of blue mana for Enduring Curiosity, which is not a Faerie, and then we might want some early interaction with Hex and Ego Drain, which Cavern of Souls doesn't cast, so then we also have to complement it with Multiversal Passage, which can either be blue or black. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play with what looks like a keepable hand. And you have to make a decision, turn 1 already, if I want to play Sleep Cursed or give myself the option of a turn 2 Bitterbloom. I think I will play Sleep Cursed here. Just to get it going sooner, lets me keep up Spell Stutter on 2, and if we don't need to cast it, I can just pay the 2 mana to untap. Opponent on Kithkin, but also playing red. So see the Figure of Fable and the Aspirant, which grows when a creature enters. Okay, so for now just play Swamp. Don't think I'm countering the Figure of Fable. There's some scarier cards that I want to Spell Stutter. Another Aspirant starts adding up, of course. But I'll let that one slide. And a Figure. So I'm taking 4. Can pay 2. And find Obira. So now it's going to be untapped Watery Grave. And can either untap, counter, or flash in one of my Faeries. So we'll definitely have to fight over any token makers here, since that's a lot of damage. Formidable Speaker. Can potentially find some token maker, but I think it's still acceptable for now. Discards Howl Squad Heavy and gets Ouroboros. That's a must counter. Yeah, Figure attacked, we could have ambushed it. Now I'm taking 6. And then I'll be at 8, play Bearer, that's gonna start ticking down. Might have to shock myself, so I'm already in some trouble here. But yeah, I think going for Bearer is still worth it. More shock lanes. So could go for Enduring Curiosity, draw 2, but that leaves me pretty dead to the Ouroboros. So instead, I can attack with probably just a Bearer. And then if they go for Ouroboros, I can counter and they won't have grown any of their creatures. So we can block with the Sleep Cursed. They could still decide to go for an all-out attack. Opponent passes, so we get to flash in Obira. And then time for Curiosity. I think I only attack with 1/1 and Obira. Might have to jump with a Bear so I don't die to it. And then a 3/3 blocker is pretty good. Alright, can still Ego Drain now. And get another Ouroboros, that's huge. So the Figure can level up twice. Up to a 4/5. Opponent's got a Battler instead. So we're fine to trade for Curiosity. Alright, opponent goes all out. So we'll wait and see which attacks they make, but I'm fine to give up on the Bitterbloom Bearer so we don't lose more life to it. Okay, so my first instinct is trade Curiosity. Jump, eat the figure, and then I may as well double block here. So this would have me taking 2, down to 2, still have 3 flyers that can attack and draw cards. Yeah, that seems good to me. And then the Sleep Cursed Faerie essentially has Vigilance, as I can untap it. So I'm not necessarily dead if I attack with all 3 and draw nothing, but hopefully we'll draw something. Alright, Messenger. So I can play Messenger. Play another Sleep Cursed. And untap the one we already had. There are still potentially some top decks that kill me. Our opponent's potentially playing the Incarnation, the red-white one, that can make some hasty tokens as well. No attack from our opponent, so I guess I'll just take my draw. No need to tap out. And then go to attackers. And that should do it. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a promising hand. Hoping to hit some more land drops. Opponent has some interaction here on turn 1. It's gonna be a goblin deck. Okay, so red-black goblins. When it dies, destroy a creature with power 2 or less. So yeah, that's pretty effective against our Bitterbloom Bearer. So for now, we can pass with our interaction available. Opponent plays a Curse Crafter. I think I'm just gonna let that one resolve, play my Bearer, and then I can hex the Curse Crafter and hopefully just ignore the Curse Tosser. Or we can tap it down with Faebloom Trick at some point. But I need to get some creatures going. Alright, another Bearer. Now a Scrounger. So can blight one to make treasure tokens. Okay, so I think I'm gonna let that one resolve with the idea of using Hex on the Curse Crafter. So before they get to blight, I'll take this out without gaining 2 life, since I don't want to lose any of my tokens. Alright, not hitting a land here is problematic. May just want to send the Bearer so we can trade for the Scrounger. Opponent's gonna essentially sacrifice a Curse Tosser to take out. They're thinking about it. Still going for the Bearer. And now a Bastronaut resolves. Can eventually gain double strike. And a Hell Squad Heavy I'm gonna have to counter here. That one's a little too scary if it gets going. And then I think I got a trade, since we're not really in a winning position right now. A land helps, so now we can Faebloom trick, buy ourselves some time. And it also sets up the Enduring Curiosity pretty well. Alright, opponent now with another Curse Tosser. That happens. And another Scrounger. So, I guess let's see here. At the beginning of your first main phase, yeah, we're still good to Faebloom trick, tap the Bastronauts. And now I think I'm just gonna go for Curiosity, draw 2 cards, and hopefully pull ahead. Can still trade the Curiosity, that's not a problem. Curse Tosser takes out a token. And a Mischief as their last card here. So now if their creatures die, we get drained for 1. And Bastronaut hits us for 2. Alright, can I stabilize from here? Can potentially keep up my counterspell and use another Faebloom trick. Can still play a Sleep-Cursed Faerie either way. Yeah, I don't think I'm deploying another Bitterbloom, especially with the Mischief draining me. That seems a little sketchy. So we'll go Sleep-Cursed. Maybe should have attacked for 1 first. Alright, still playing this tapped. And then I'm probably tapping the Bastronaut. Opponent still attacking. Maybe trade for 1 of the tokens. So we're at 5. I'll feel a bit safer next turn if I can keep up my counterspell. And then maybe play a Messenger to speed up our clock as well. If I get in with a Curiosity, we're hitting for 7. And then next turn I could present lethal. Opponent had the Hex. Fair enough. There was a reason to maybe still put the counter on the Curiosity. And draw 2 cards. Okay. So I can still flash in a Bearer just to block the Bastronauts. Alright, now grub. This can still counter it. And I probably should return a Goblin from graveyard to hand. Yeah, that's pretty effective here. Now the Bastronaut can hit me for 2 damage, basically. So I fall to 2. Max speed has been achieved. But can I attack for lethal? Opponent doesn't want to find out, but yeah, at the very least I would be able to untap the Sleep Cursed Faerie, get a nice attack in, draw a bunch of cards, and then either find more interaction or just keep up enough blockers that we can survive the incoming attack. I guess there's also Restless Reef. Would that present lethal? So opponent's at 13. This has one additional stun counter, so yeah, I couldn't untap the Sleep Cursed and attack with a Restless Reef. It's one or the other. But yeah, I think we're still in a pretty good spot. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with what looks like a keepable hand. Could use some cheaper fairies, but for now can play the Passage. Probably on blue now. Does mean I wouldn't necessarily be able to play the Bitterblossom Faerie on 2 if we draw it. But it will eventually need double blue for the Enduring Curiosity. Opponent on some sort of Kona combo deck, who knows? At the very least they want to tap some creatures down. I see Meek Attack. Well, that seems like their key card that I probably want to counter here. And there's the Bitterbloom Bearer. So we could flash it in end of turn. Yeah, that's probably better than playing a messenger and not getting an immediate trigger. Opponent's got Kona as well, and they can immediately tap it down. And Faerie Fencing is not quite gonna work. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So our opponent can cheat something into play. If I had triple black, I could have gone Bitterbloom into Fencing for 0. It's gonna be a Famished World Sire. That one is gonna stay in play. The good news is that we can just chump it with our 1/1 tokens. So maybe not the end of the world. So play the bearer, make a token, and then I can take out Kona before it gets a chance to trigger again. And play messenger. Attack. And I don't think we'll need the hex. Oasis deals 1. And our opponent's got another Meek Attack. So they can put that to use next turn. I will chump since my life total is under a lot of threat here. Okay, Obira can help increase her damage output. So I guess we play Obira first, or I could see if I can draw into some more interaction to stop the Meek Attack. I miss out on 1 damage, so that's probably fine. So we get 2 triggers. Nuisance can go. And Faebloom Trick. I'm not going to be able to pay the ward all that easily. Okay, so I can flash in Obira, and then next turn we could draw a bunch with a Curiosity. But we'll see what else they can cheat and play with a Meek Attack. The Wandering Minstrel. Activate Meek Attack. Nothing to put in play. And our opponent explodes, I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with what looks like a functional hand. Can turn 3 fire off an Ego Drain. Or we can wait until a little bit later. Because I'm probably going to want to curve Obira into Messenger. Still want to play Swamp in case we draw Bitterbloom Bearer. So, yeah, can, I guess, let them know what we're up to. On the off chance that they're holding a counterspell. But doesn't seem to be the case out of a red-green deck. Badger Mole. Still a powerful card in Standard. So I could double Ego Drain here. We'll start with one, just to know what's up. I see opponent on a Vivid deck. So the Awakener being one of the payoffs for having multiple colors among permanents you control. That one's still pretty far away. The Lava Leaper gives everything haste and doubles everyone's basic lanes, including mine. And then Tam can protect their stuff. Bloom Tender would make, well, right now not a ton of mana. Once they combine it with Tam, they can have all 5 colors, and then this becomes scarier. Opponent could already play Lava Leaper next turn. So maybe I still take it, because I can't really benefit from the extra mana. And then... what else do I Ego Drain? I could wait another turn. Opponent goes Tam plus Bloom Tender. Probably take the Awakener. Yeah, I guess I'll take it now. That's the eventual payoff that we're worried about. So there's Bloom Tender, currently only green, but once Tam activates, it can make 5 mana. And yeah, I need some good top decks here. Alright, the trick is decent. So now we also have double blue for Enduring Curiosity. Alright, opponent top decked another Awakener, so that could be bad. Finds a Leyline. Our opponent maybe forgot to activate Tam first. Because yeah, right now they only had 2 colors as opposed to potentially 5 if they activated this first. But they're maybe keeping up the protection here, which is fair. And now with Leyline they have hexproof from every color, except for Tam itself. But they can also target Tam with its own ability. So there's nothing I'll be able to tap down with a Faebloom trick, in other words. But our opponent is at 7, so might still be able to cross the finish line. Our opponent goes to attackers. I guess I could trick now, tap something down. And yeah, opponent scoops it up, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a promising hand. Can start with Sleep Cursed, turn 2, maybe Ego Drain. I guess I will play Watery Grave still. Because if I want to Ego Drain on 2, Cavern of Souls is not going to cast it, so it's not like I can go turn 1 Cavern, turn 2 tapped Watery Grave. And if I were to top deck another Ego Drain, I want a double black. So against black-red, could keep up Spell Stutter. I think that's better for now. And then if I don't need to counter, I can untap the Faerie. And then maybe turn 3 I can both Ego Drain and Spell Stutter. So red-black could be goblins or lizards. Yeah, Gav is probably worth countering. Now Messenger, probably want to wait a turn to play it. Also a great combo with the Guardian, since you can keep putting counters on it and then removing them to counter more things. So I think this turn I'm down to just go for end of turn Flash and Guardian, as opposed to could have gone Ego Drain plus untap, but I'll wait one more turn. Alright, a Laughing Jasper, I see. And Obira. So, if I play Messenger, I don't have to put the +1 counter on the Guardian, I can put it elsewhere. But let me start with Ego Drain, just to know what we're working with. Alright, so we've got more Lizards. Inferno as one of the payoffs for it, to enhance their damage output. Shoot the Sheriff, non-outlaw. We do have a lot of Rogues as well, but none of them in hand, I guess. So all my creatures are fine targets, and then Burst Lightning. Probably take Shoot the Sheriff, because that can more efficiently answer my things. Or we could take the Fireglass Mentor as another creature to synergize with the Inferno. Opponent's also going to find some of our own fairies to get in the way. So it's not an entirely obvious decision. I think I take Shoot the Sheriff still. And then play Messenger, attack. And I can discard the lane still. Maybe put the counter on the Sleep Cursed Faerie, since that has some built-in protection with Ward 2. Alright, opponent found Enduring Curiosity, which they could flash in here. They would also get to draw a card, since I'm not blocking. But then they're also taking quite a bit of damage on the way back. And then the Guardian can maybe counter the Collective Inferno later. So opponent not opting for Enduring Curiosity. So they might have drawn something else. Vine Lasher with Offspring. Yeah, that could be pretty nice with a Collective Inferno. And a Nuisance. So start by attacking, and I can probably go all out. Make it a 2-turn clock. And then discard another Guardian. So I think I just pass. Can also untap the Faerie to have it back as a blocker, still flash in Obira or activate Guardian. Alright, opponent found Ego Drain, although they do not have a Faerie in play at least. And then Spell Stutter. So yeah, they hit some good interaction. My play might be to flash in Obira in response to an Ego Drain if they go for it. I'm fine if it dies to a Burst Lightning. And then I can still keep up mana for Guardian and Faerie. So we'll stick to the plan. Obira resolves. Was also uncounterable, so it's not like they would have been able to Spell Stutter through Cavern of Souls. Opponent now has to exile a card from their hand. So we'll see. Opponent goes to attackers, goes all out. So if I were to untap Sleep Curse to block Jasper, they, I guess, no longer have the Burst Lightning to pay the ward and finish this off, unless they drew another one. I mean, the Obira can also block. Or I can just keep up Guardian, which probably can go wrong. Block like so. And our opponent had a Flamecash Gecko, which they can play into Mentor. But yeah, the Guardian preventing them from casting the Inferno here. And now we should have lethal on the way back. Alright, sweet. The Hex also pretty synergistic with Guardian, since you can put an additional -1 counter on it, so you can counter more non-creature spells going forward. So there's a lot of tricky synergies with Blight, -1 counters and +1 counters that you can pull off. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand desperately needs 2 more lands, because Bitterbloom into Enduring Curiosity is pretty awesome. I'll try it, we're on the draw. Got some early interaction so we don't get run over. Opponent also blue-black, so it could be the mirror match. In which case, Enduring Curiosity is quite powerful if we can resolve it. Never mind. More of a Reanimator deck, maybe. The Elf is kind of a black variant of some of the white creatures we've seen in the past. And yeah, can survive the Hex if I try and take it out here. So it could be a deck trying to reanimate Abhorrent Oculus. For now, flash in Albira. And our opponent counters. That's fine. So now I can flash in the Guardian, perhaps. Or we can immediately go for Trick into Curiosity. But I want to keep up Spell Stutter just in case. See if this works. Alright, so now we could try and go for Curiosity. Opponent does have mana up, so I'm still probably gonna try and play it end of turn. And for now keep up all my instants, including the Guardian's ability. Take 3 more. Opponent's looking at the graveyard. For Quantum Riddler, I see they're probably going to want to flicker the Riddler. That's fine. Still prefer going for my own Enduring Curiosity here. Could of course counter the flicker effect with a Guardian. So that goes away. And then now we can go for Curiosity. And hopefully pull ahead. Ego Drain's great too, but let's start by attacking. And draw 2 cards. Start with an Ego Drain. Opponent's gonna maybe discard some things in response, including the Oculus that I mentioned. Alright, so they have Spell Snare, that's a good one. Emptiness can get back the Oculus next turn if they evoke it. And then another Quantum Riddler. So what makes sense here? Yeah, for opponent goes for Emptiness. I wouldn't be able to necessarily Spell Stutter since our opponent can Spell Snare back. I guess I can shock myself to then also have the Guardian's ability available. Or I can just take the Emptiness, and then my opponent can spend some time warping and casting more Riddlers, which is fine by me. And this turn I think I just... well, I could also Hex the Elf to force him to discard. In their upkeep, maybe. And then Bitterbloom Trick still seems fine. We've got options aplenty. Could also flash in another Curiosity. Hex put -1 counter on Guardian so we can use it twice is also kind of sweet. So we'll see if they let anything go. Right, discarding the Spell Snare, so now Spell Stutter looks better. They found line 5 to cast Oculus, which we can now counter. Can hex the elf again if I'd like. I think I just slammed down another Curiosity. Attack, drawing 4 cards. And then fencing would be a clean answer to the elf, which gets around indestructible. But I also don't mind having my opponent discard another card potentially. So again, wait until their upkeep, so it's tapped. Opponent lets it go this time. And then we can just tap down the Quantum Riddler to attack for lethal. But there were a few ways we could have sequenced these last few turns. Alright, and that'll do it. So we got to see this updated version of the blue-black Faerie deck in action. And yeah, it seems like it's got some potential in the upcoming Standard season. The Bitterbloom Bearer definitely impressed, especially alongside the Enduring Curiosity to draw you a ton of cards. At the same time, if you're playing that combo, you also want to make sure you have enough early interaction that you don't fall behind on board before you can set that up. But that's also where the new Requiting Hex as an efficient removal spell is going to be very helpful at slowing down other aggro decks and maybe taking out Badger Mole Cubs, which can otherwise ramp into all sorts of nonsense. But yeah, for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.